All right, so welcome back to another one, y'all. All right, so we are quickly approaching trapping season. Depending on where you're at in the country, you know, the majority of us are within 4 to 6 weeks of really getting going. So thought I'd do this this fur market update kind of speculation video. Give you guys my opinion, my 15 plus years of experience, as well as give you some information from the most recent Fur Harvester's auction to kind of give you an idea of what to expect going into the season. All right, so first things first, understand this, fur has been on a downward trend for the last few years. We're definitely not in the boom that there was, you know, 7, 8, 9 years ago, basically. You know, that time frame between like 2011 through 2013-ish. We're not on that anymore. Fur is on a downward trend, has been for the last couple of years, and I believe we're gonna pretty much stay the same this year. You throw in the fact that, you know, just the world's economy are not great, as well as throw in this whole pandemic situation. I just don't think it's gonna be on the rise this year, but I wanna give you guys some information. So I'll throw it up here on the screen and I'm gonna read off of it too. So this is basically the sale results from Fur Harvester's most recent sale. This is their July auction. They had one in April as well, but this is the most recent one. So we're going to take a few numbers off of this, but you have to remember too that if you look at the offering from this sale, the offering was not crazy high. Also, you need to remember whenever you're looking at auction results like this, remember, if you're looking at the average, you also need to look at the percentage that's sold. Because although the average may be high, if there was only 25% of that offering sold, that could be the best of the best. So to get a real concrete average, you need a high percentage of that offering that was sold. And I'll show you guys as we move down. So we're not going to hit every single species here, but I'll hit a few of the main ones, you know, kind of the bread and butter for a lot of people. We're going to skip beaver. We're going to come back to beaver. I want to speak on that here at the end. But we're going to start off with mink here. Now, a lot of speculation going into this year with mink. As many of you guys may or may not know, last year, many millions of mink were culled. A lot of them in the European countries where that is a big industry over there. The ranch mink, understand too that there's a difference between a ranch mink and a wild mink. Ranch mink are quite a bit bigger. There's different color phases in them. They're also perfect. They don't have all the scars and bite marks and everything that wild mink do. But last year, there were many millions of them that were called out of these European countries because they believed that they were spreading this coronavirus. So going into this year, there's a lot of speculation on what will that do to mink prices because they culled so many of them. You know, obviously there's going to be a shortage. Now, what I have been hearing, as well as my personal thoughts on this matter, I don't think you're going to see a huge increase in wild mink prices, simply for the fact that wild mink and ranch mink are on just so totally different levels that there's not a lot of crossover between the two. Like I said, ranch mink are huge. They're compared to wild mink. They're also just perfect. So, you know, the wild mink market and the ranch mink market are so opposite each other. I don't think you'll see a huge increase in wild mink prices. If we take a look at the auction results from July, you can see, you know, there was only 5,600 mink offered, which is, you know, not a lot in the whole scheme of things, and they only averaged, you know, $7, $6.50, $7 for males and $4 for females. I don't see that changing a whole bunch this year due to, you know, like I said, there's just a big difference between ranch and wild mink. You know, a couple other big ticket items that I want to touch on. Obviously, you can see here otter. Otter has been low for the last couple of years. I don't see him going real high this year. One thing to watch is muskrats, right? In the July auction here, they showed increased demand. There was 106,000 of them offered. Vast majority of them sold. They sold for a $5 average. Now that's a pretty good average for a muskrat. You know, they're easy to catch, easy to put up. So the demand is there for muskrats. Now that being said, with only 100,000 of them offered, that's really not that many in the whole scheme of things. But also remember that a large part of the northern Midwest has experienced a drought this year. So what that's going to do to the harvest is yet to be determined, but if the harvest is down and the demand stays high, that could actually raise prices on muskrat. So if you're looking to trap the muskrat this year, definitely wait until they're prime, obviously. But muskrat's something to consider going after this year. Like I said, because of the drought and the increased demand. Moving down, I'm skipping a few things. You guys can see the information that I'm seeing too. So fox in general, fox has been down for the last few years, and you can see here by the auction results, red fox and gray fox both, they're not doing great. You can see here, a lot of my fox get sold as either taxidermy or novelty items. So, consider that if you're going to be targeting the fox. It's a pretty critter to be only getting, $15 for, basically. You can try to find some different markets and definitely up your price for sale. We'll jump down to coyotes here real quick. Now, coyotes is one thing that coyotes across the country can swing tremendously, right? A lot of people, at least in my area, they see these prices of these Western and Canadian coyotes and they think they're going to get that here, and it's just not the case. Remember, your primo coyotes or your Western coyotes, Alberta, Saskatchewan, your Canadian coyotes. So that area of the country always produces the best coyotes, and they always demand a premium price. You look more towards the central U.S. and the eastern, those are the areas of the country that you see these low prices. And you can see that reflected in this, in the auction sale here, where you've got coyotes, 100% of the Western heavies sold, like they always do, and they sold at, 3 to 4 times what your centrals and your easterns sold for. So for me, my area, central part of the country, if I can go into this year looking for a $25 to $30 average on coyotes, I'll be happy with that. You have to remember that, I have, where I'm at in the country, I have actually got every single grade of coyote over the years. I got a heavy once. I don't know how it got through, but I actually graded out one coyote as a heavy. The majority of mine either go central or Western semi. I do get quite a few eastern. We get a lot of red coloring, and that always pushes those coyotes into that eastern grading. But you can see the tremendous variant in prices depending on where you're at. So like I said, for me, if I can shoot for a $25 to $30 average on coyotes, that's where I'm kind of shooting for this year. You can see the offering was not crazy high either. But the percentage sold was fairly high, so I feel like you can take, you can take these average prices that you see here with a grain of salt. This is kind of the same way what I saw with the way Grunwald's was buying last year as well. So moving right along, we'll jump down to coons. Obviously, coons, that's a big item for everybody across the country, but you can see here with 71,000 offered, there was very limited interest. The coon market right now is down. And the big reason for that is there is so much of a stockpile left in this world, right? So in general, 71,000 offered at an auction is actually fairly low. Whenever NAPA was offering, they would offer sometimes 4, 5, 600,000 in an auction. So 71,000 is really just a drop in the bucket compared to the harvest. The problem is there's so much old stock out there right now that it's making it very difficult to sell your fresh fur, basically. These companies can go buy this cheap old stock fur for nothing, basically, and that's why you're seeing this very limited demand on this new raw fur. So going into this year, guys, if you're going to trap coons, I would highly suggest you only take the best of the best. Those you guys have always heard me talk. I do everything at least a 2XL, minimum XL. But if you've got anything that's super rubbed, real dingy colored, even if it is a bigger grade, know that you're not going to get a good price for them. Last year, I think I released 30 to 40% of my catch, just because I knew that I was not going to make any money on it, basically. Say what you want about the whole nest rating thing and getting the population out. I've been doing this for 15 plus years. I've been trapping some of the same areas for that long, and I can tell you, you can trap an area out and you can come back within 3 or 4 months and it's going to have just the same population. In my area, the critters are there for a reason, so I'm not real keen on taking a critter that's not worth anything. Possums the same way. You guys can look down and see possums right now are not worth really keeping, in my opinion. Back in the day, I paid for my gas with them, but that's just not the case now. So I'm going to release stuff that's not worth anything. I'll leave that to you guys at your discretion to do whatever, but that's kind of my mindset going into this year. I'm only going to take the best of the best. So moving down here, we talked about possums. Obviously, you guys can see badgers. So skunks is one thing that I do want to talk about. Skunks is something that you can make money off of skunks. You can always make money off of skunks. If you find the right market for them, skunks is a pretty consistent sell every single year, whether or not you sell it raw fur. If you get skunks like this one, you can see right here, that nice, big, pronounced white stripes all the way. That is a great novelty item. If you can find a novelty market, you can always command a pretty decent price for your fur, especially if you send them off, get them tanned yourself, different things like that. Now, you're going to have to look long and hard for these novelty items, because people's not going to tell you their chains, basically. It's a pretty niche system, so you're gonna have to look, but you can definitely make some money on skunks. Also, remember, you can take the essence out of the skunk and you can sell it. If you're not drawing the essence out, you're losing money. Essence is always at a pretty consistent price, so you take a good skunk, you draw the essence out of them. Honestly, a good skunk's worth more than a coyote to me this year in my area. So remember that. Alright, so that pretty much covers kind of the bread and butter of these auction results. Like I said, you guys can see here, you can look through them yourself. I'll leave the link below too to Fur Harvester's website if you want to check it out. It's kind of cool to follow the auctions and everything else. So real quick here, I want to talk about beaver. So you see beaver there at the very top of this. There were 80,000, 81,000 of them offered. Only 23% of them sold. And you can see the prices there were not great. A $12 average for your first section ones, and a $4 for your lower quality ones. What I want you to pay attention to is the caster prices down below. You can see there $110 a pound for grade 1 and $90 a pound for grade 3. So what has happened in the last few years is, because beaver prices are so low, the harvest in general has been down. What that's done is that has really increased the price of castor. Castor is used in a lot of different things, across the board, not just bait making. So you can see, because of the decrease in harvest, the price of castors actually went high, and it's going to stay high this year, in my opinion. Everything's going to show that castor is going to be high this year. So if you're looking to trap beaver, definitely look into that castor market. I've got videos on how to remove castor and keep them dried. Also, something to consider if you're going to go after this castor market, remember that if you're going to trap beaver early where they're out and about all the time, you're going to yield less castor than if you were to wait later in the year. Me in my area, if you get a freeze up, if you're covered in ice for a set amount of time and then you thaw out, that is the time to jump on these beaver. If your beaver are trapped under the ice, they're not going to be out and about, marking these castor mounds and really secreting the castor like they would if they're locked up. So you may wait till later in the year to harvest your beaver this year, because the castor is actually worth more than the pelt. Also remember too, for those of you who don't know, beaver meat in general is is awesome. If you're not taking the meat, the castor, and the fur off your beaver, you're wasting a lot, in my opinion. So anyway, I thought I'd save that one for the last. Honestly, for me, I don't get to trap a lot of beavers, but there's some money in it this year as far as the castor prices. So with that being said, guys, like I said, I showed you the auction results from fur harvesters. Now, I also have been getting information from Grunwald. You know, his prices are fairly comparable to what you see here in this July auction. You guys can look back to the April auction from fur harvesters as well. With the whole pandemic situation, you know, a lot of these companies are going to put a ton of money down on fur that they can't see. And, you know, with these auction houses, they bring in buyers, and they weren't able to do that last year because of the lockdowns and everything. So there was quite a few companies that just did not appear at the auction. So going into this year with restrictions kind of lifting and different things like that, there may be a little bit more interest as far as what the auction houses will see. You know, the buyers are able to actually come in and see their product, and they weren't able to do that last year. So as far as me, what I'm doing, last year I split my fur up. I sold half through fur harvesters, and I sold half through Grunwald. Now, you guys know I used to sell through NAFA, but they're no longer NAFA. So I split my fur up between those two. Did that for a couple different reasons. One being, whenever you sell to Grunwald, they're kind of a buy here, pay here situation where they'll cut you a check right at the truck. Auction houses in general have always given me better prices. That being said, you have to wait on them. You're not going to get a check right there. And honestly, I did not sell hardly anything last year through the auction houses, so I didn't get a very big check at all. So it's something to consider going into this year, whether you want to wait and maybe get a better price, maybe not. I knew going into last year that the pandemic was going to screw things up, so I sent half of it up there knowing that I probably wasn't going to sell a lot of it, but I still sold through Grunwald. I got a check for, you know, right then. Whatever you guys want to do, something to consider. Also, don't overlook some local buyers this year. There's a lot of speculation. There's a lot of uncertainty going into this year. So if you get a high price offered to you from a local buyer, I would jump on it this year. You know, I've always said you're never going to have cheap fur with high gas prices, and right now fuel's $3.30 a gallon, so you know that may bump the price. I have always in the past looked to the Russian ruble and gas prices, oil prices in general, as kind of a thing to see what the market's doing. You know, Russia's a huge buyer of the coon market, and that's kind of my bread and butter, what I sell. So you don't know. Like I said at the beginning of the video, in general, I don't see prices going sky high. I really don't. I see them being about level, about the same of this year. But that being said, we've got higher fuel prices this year. Things are starting to open up with the whole pandemic. So, you know, there is a little bit of uncertainty, and there is a little optimism, you know, going into this year. So anyway, I hope that helped you guys out. I hope it kind of gave you a little bit of insight of what I go through every year going into it. Kind of the way I look at things going into the season. Trying to kind of break down what's going to make you money, what's going to not. Obviously, a good portion of you guys out there are not in it for the money. I understand that. You know, it's a hobby thing. But at the same time, you know, if you've got this product, you might as well market it to the best of your ability. So that's why I make these videos. I hope it helps. If you guys enjoyed this video, if you've got anything from it, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up. It lets me know that you guys like this type of video, as well as leave me a comment. Let me know what your guys' thought process is going into the season. You know, where I'm at in the central part of the country. If you're in a different part of the country, you may have a whole different outlook on the way you're going to market your fur. So with that being said, guys, I hope you all have a great season. I hope you all catch a ton of stuff. Hope you all market it well, and I hope you all make a bunch of money. As always, y'all, appreciate the view. See you on the next one.